about what their Lexile scores, their MAP scores, what it all means. Because I feel like last year when I did that and they owned their data, then they were driven. And then I could say, here, go to readworks.org. Many of us use ReadWorks. You find your Lexile, okay, push yourself to 1,200, 1,300. And then they did that and they increased their Lexile by the second MAP test, and then I gave a reward. So I mean, I feel like a lot of it's just having those conversations and having the kids own it so they get excited about the scores.
And what
it's less work on me if they own it.
And with that, I'll piggyback off this. She had created what I didn't do last year that I wanted to try to incorporate this year was the data trackers. It's all online. It's the kids, once they're writing it down and recording it, they're making themselves accountable. So that was very beneficial for having them own it. So if that's one thing you guys are really into is the data, and you like your kids writing down their test scores and their quizzes, I would go with that. It's already set up for you. You can use Tiffany's, or you can just do something as basic as Miss Beck yesterday, her and I decided that our inclusion class, I had it somewhere, our inclusion class was just gonna do a basic vocab printout, and we're gonna have it glued into their notebooks. And I'm still doing it paper and pencil. They're writing down their quizzes every week.
Yeah, it's just like really just graphing it. They're just plotting it. So first test, and I can share it. I use it through Fusion. So when we do vocab and we do it that way, you're just going to track it that way. And it gives, I mean, up to what, 15 tests, maybe 20. I don't think it's up there. So I can try and share it if you want.
Just to kind of go back to our PowerPoint and to reiterate this point, I feel like last year what we did as a PL team is each month focus on one goal, implementing one thing, and that really helped me. So right now, since the beginning of the year, focusing on whole child is it's natural and it's easy to do. Like just investing in them emotionally and academically, and like their culture and where they're from, you know, what's going on with them at school, with their peers, investing in all of that right now is obviously the best thing to do. That way you get to learn the kids, and then you can go from there. So whole child, I think, is the easiest. And one way I do that, journal entries, that's easy. Debates, I let them choose topics that are relevant to them instead of giving them the option. I let them choose the choices, which I'm sure a lot of us do all that already. Study choices, choice menus. I do a lot of choice in my class. That way they don't feel like, oh, I have to do this. Like they get excited about it when they can choose, you know, when it's relevant to them.
Something easy, Miss Young has given us several choice boards. I used those last year a lot. So that was already PL. So the choice boards that we use for dispersal work, other than nonfiction, fiction, I created a poetry one. I can hand off. We have choice boards already made. In fact, I think we put one on the back of the handout as an example. There's one on the back of here you can use. We also have an electronic copy that we're going to be dumping everything into a PL folder, which we'll show you too. So this is, yeah, whole child's easiest. A lot of you have already done forms, figured out who they are, what your kids' interests are. Taking a step further into PL would be actually giving them the personalized learning survey, which you can add in at any point when you feel comfortable and ready. And we'll give you guys that too. So data trackers, we already talked about. This is under the mastery learning, just using technology and certain websites that are already done for you.
And then changing your grouping, of course.
Student ownership, I love this part. This is something I felt like at first it was going to be kind of elementary-ish, and I ended up doing it and gave my students that one-on-one time that they wanted with me. My classrooms were going so smoothly and kids were working and everybody was just on task and engaged. It allowed me to sit down with them, and on one of the sides I had created a student assessment for them. So the bottom portion, now I did this for poetry, I did this for informational text, I did it for fiction, and I also did it during our novel studies. The bottom portion I always left the same, and I have an electronic copy so you can switch out the top part with your standards. I left the bottom the same, and that was more about the whole child. What are you doing, and student ownership, what are you doing to bring a positive attitude to the classroom? Are you doing your homework? So I always had them reflecting on that. But then at the top, I actually had a essential questions and what I wanted them to master, using the terminology too: expert, practitioner, apprentice, and novice. They had no problem. They were harder on themselves than what I expected them to be. So when I had them in groups like this, when I had my 4 things up, those were the days I would meet with them student conferencing. And I just pulled out here, they'd come up. I think I have an interview with 2 kids somewhere floating out there, and it just went so well. They were like, well, I'm really still struggling with this. I have no idea what theme is. I don't even know the words to choose to use when I'm talking about a theme. So we would go over that. We'd talk about their tests, their study habits, this and that, and then they would get a little personalized time too to just kind of tell me about their life. And I mean, they were like 5-minute conferences in and out. It wasn't anything too long. It wasn't hard on me. It was actually enjoyable because I felt like I was doing my part and giving everybody their individual time that they needed. So this was a huge thing, and I know a lot of people in other schools started implementing this as far as PL.
And why you did it, your students were going
They were.
before the
And did you do all 4 classes at once, or did you just start with 1 class at a time?
I did all 4, and then I took a couple days, but I got through all 4. Towards my 5th block last year, I was getting tired. But, so I broke it up. They took a little bit longer to get through every single kid. But, yeah, it took a couple days, and then they saved these, and they had them, and we were able to use them when we met with parents and conferenced with them. It was a good resource for me and tool to use that. So that's just an example for student ownership and, student ownership, personal reflections, test reflections.
The way I presented it to my class too was just, again, own what you do. Like, after we go through a unit, in order to show that you understand it, I would have them do the Earn It, Own It project. So if they earned it, they get to own the project. So instead of me saying, hey, do this project to show that you know what you're doing, I gave them so many choices, and they got to create something that was their own. And so, for example, last year we were talking about theme. So after our theme unit, I had a little girl create a story, and it incorporated a very specific theme. She read it to the class. I had a group of 4 boys create a rap. It had a very specific theme. They performed it in front of class. I had kids creating poetry, because some kids, you know, they have all kinds of different things that they like to do. So instead of saying, this is the product you have to do, I gave them choices, and it usually went with their learning style, you know.
Some of them, we had a lot of writers too. Some of them just wanted to sit and write. They wanted to write the story, they wanted to write, they wanted to read the informational text, they wanted to research, and they wanted to do that off on their own. Well, other kids wanted to work with partners.
And it's amazing what you'll find. Like, Adriana Mealy, she did a song, she wrote a song, sang it for us, and it had a very specific theme. So I know that's kind of like out there, but I feel like, you know, the less control I was in, the better it got, almost. Which was
They
scary.
ended up telling us stuff. There was one day my honors kids were like, oh, there's kids out there creating apps, and there's a website for apps, and I can't remember exactly what it had to do with what we were doing in language arts, but it spun into that, and they started telling me, this is what we want to do, this is where we want to take it. So they were creating and coming up with ideas I could use for my other classes, and it was really fun to watch.
This method incorporates a lot of writing that we kind of sometimes struggle to, well, they need to write, they can't write, they just don't even know how to make sentences. And this is, you know, sort of on their own terms, but there was a lot of writing involved. And I feel like sometimes we have to manufacture the writing prompt or whatever, and it seems like it comes up
Pretty easily, if you let them choose what they get to talk about. To a certain extent. You know.
And the conversation with each other, it was really cool to watch.
Okay. Last one.
The last one's Paces, Pathways, and Playlists. So this one, we kind of trickled in, all of us took different spins, even using Google Classroom, using Blend Space. That was a way that you can incorporate it. I used Blend Space a lot last year, and I used it sometimes for me to deliver whole group instruction, but then also I had them creating their own blend spaces in certain groups.
Can we show
And
them
they really liked
one?
it. Yeah, I haven't logged into it. I can remember my login.
Well, this is what
Okay.
That I created.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, do that.
with our figurative language unit, I had them do their notes on their own instead of me doing a PowerPoint and all of us doing it together because kids get bored. I had them do their notes on their own, and then there was a YouTube video that they had to pick out the figurative language, more notes. Okay, and then there was a quiz to see if they really truly understood the figurative language. And then once they got an 80%, which was mastery last year, for 84. Once they got mastery, they got to do the Earn It, Own It project or some type of project. So that blend space, I love doing blend space for like flipped classroom and notes
Me too.
and pathways and
Isn't that the thing, didn't you share that with everybody last year?
yeah.
Because I was gonna say, like, I didn't do a lot of personalized learning last year, but you shared that, and it was really easy to do that
And with our
project once
one-on-one
they had the
technology.
Chromebooks and stuff, yeah.
And Miss
And they
Moore,
liked it.
Miss Moore and myself had made blend spaces, and we were able to share back and forth with Miss Akima and Cook. So it worked out really well. And sometimes we were the ones creating the blend spaces and letting the students access it. Sometimes we ended up using it while we were talking and they were all going through it. Sometimes we had them making their own blend spaces. So it really just depends how you want to use it.
And again, like this isn't every day. Personalized learning is not every day. It may just be 15 minutes of your class, like during the warm-up. So I think it's important to stress that and not get overwhelmed and just take one thing per month because I'm not even doing everything that's on this PowerPoint. I still have to work on the novice apprentice idea.
And mine is data trackers. I've had informal data trackers, but I like the ones that are already set up online with the standards that the kids are taking accountability for. So we have resources. We've created choice boards ourselves. We've created blend spaces. All of you can start creating blend spaces. Even, it came to a point where my honors kids were creating such good blend spaces. They were sharing them with me, and then I was using them in my other classes, or I was telling them to share them with each other.
Yeah.
And they were all just sharing their ideas, and they're proud of it. So that was another student ownership piece of it as well. I'm trying to think. This paper right here, we kind of just made what a classroom setup would look like. It says in the personal learning environment, basically what I showed you before, there's individual seating, there's, beanbag section back there. It was more relaxed. I was taking pictures yesterday. I was like, does anybody need me? It gets to that point, and I think Mr. Calling said that last year. It gets to the point where you're like, I'm here if anyone needs me, because they're engaged and they're doing what they should be for the most part. And then they're just off, and the conversations that you hear too from them, it's pretty amazing. So on the sheet, we just divided it up, gave you some ideas what you could do. Individual space for journaling, teacher area with places for students to sit, 2 to 3 tables grouped for collaborative work. You just have different sections of your room. You can label them zones too. I know last year, Jill, who's in charge of personalized learning, had talked about Genius Hour, and she loved using Genius Hour on Fridays in her classroom. And basically, that's just time for students to pick a research-based project that they're interested in and go from there. And they bring up the ideas you as a teacher facilitate, have the conversations with them. That's an hour on Fridays, and they're working on something that is important to them and relevant to the real world. So, and that's something I would like to really incorporate this year too. I think on here, I put Genius Hour in parentheses. Another website that I was researching on, it's called Discovery Zone. Students using laptops, technology to discover answers, investigate, solve problems, collaborate on projects. So this could be an individual project, or there might be a group of kids that want to take on a global issue or concern they have and research and put their own spin on it. And then the repeat level, I think that's more, I would call it novice area. That would be me sitting one-on-one, or my inclusion teacher was back, sitting one-on-one with them. So again, a lot of the stuff you guys are already doing. Some of you are doing data trackers. A lot of us, almost all of us, are really good at whole child, getting to know the kids. You know what they need from you, who they can work with. If they're better, they'll tell you to. So it's not really, I know that we were very stressed out when we first sat through all the meetings And then little by little, as the year went on last year, we realized Ridge Road was already doing a lot of this stuff.
And you have to also know that it's not gonna look the same in all of our classes. Like Amy and I are very different teachers, and we do some things similar and some things very different. So I mean, just make it your own, you know? Make it work for you in your classroom.
And again, as far as letting them completely go and every day just picking their own pathway and playlist, I know a lot of us couldn't do that. So at least 1 to 2 days, still whole instruction, and then, you know, there are some of the kids in honors. I know Ms. Barnes said she's really high honors groups. They might only need 10 minutes for whole instruction, and they'll be like, we got this, we know what we're doing. And then they can break off from there into their other high groups. So the William and Mary stuff, you can use that as a station or center to have the kids. And other kids can be already on Genius Hour investigating research-based projects. And then too, I think Ms. Simpson was wanting them to come up with something that's globally, I don't say competitive, but some kind of global research project that stems from Ridge Road, or some kind of community service that ties everything in. We can add our own language arts spin on it. We were even trying to work with our math, science, and social studies counterparts. What are you doing in here and creating? And this again isn't anything new. We've done this throughout the years, worked with our counterparts, our teammates, and created bigger projects that the kids can take a little piece and work in each class.
So when you did novels, did you wait till the end of the novel to do this kind of stuff?
Oh,
Or
that's
did you
great.
do this throughout the novel?
Okay, 2 things with novels. When we first started off last year, I had all my students reading the same novel. By the end of the year, I had different choices set up. So a lot of things with the novels, I would still do these groups, and then I would base my groups still, the kids who were struggling reading were basic comprehension with me over in a group. My other kids were doing choice words for the novels or sections or character analysis, and you know, I just found different websites. Some were doing text pairs. I was finding informational text that went along with the novels, so it was just different groups. So I was still doing the novice expert group setting with novels. I mean, some of you already, again, let them choose their own novels. That's personalized learning. They're making the choice. They're picking their novel. You're still accomplishing the same standards and mastery. So if that's something you already do, I would put that down and say the student choice with novels is something you're including.
How do you do
Last year I had all my students doing the same novel. So my first year I did choice novels, and that worked well, but sometimes it's the behavior part, and sometimes, like, stations don't work all that well for me, so that's something I need to work on this year. And I think just having a conversation at the different levels will help, because stations, sometimes I feel like this group's not doing anything, you know what I mean? So it gets really frustrating for me. So that's definitely something I gotta work on this year, just trying to incorporate that.
And it's really how you present it again. I do know there was a class that the teacher had a little bit of issues with, and they were like, we don't want to be in the novice, you know? And that's, of course, they don't want to be in the novice, they want to be in the expert. It's how you present it, though. It really is. If you present it in a manner where, hey, you might just need extra help, and that's one-on-one time with me. And then, oh, that was a great point. Once they got done, some of the kids that were sitting with me in the groups, and then they started working off on their own, and I was still giving small group instruction, I would let them move. And I would say, okay, you're ready to go to the apprentice, you're ready. And I would bounce them. So, and then experts, at one point, if they finished all the work that I had signed for them, it was their time to go off on their own. So I guess it was a little bit of Genius Hour. But it had to be related to what we were doing. So it was nice to watch the different setups, and then it's refreshing too. They're not all just doing the same thing. They're all working on something different.
It's very helpful to see the examples in our content.
Is there any way we can get everybody this PowerPoint and share it out?
It's shared, I think.
Oh, it is?
I found it one day. While I was bored at home, just searching for
That
it.
is, of course, very good.
It's on the Ridge Road, in the PL folder.
Oh,
That's cool. All right.
yeah. That's what we have for you.
No more.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys can think we missed it. Oh, you do have to pick your two that you think you wanna focus on.
Do anyone have any additional questions or concerns? 'Cause
So for 8th grade, I do some of this stuff, so you know it's not that bad. But my question is, when they get to high school, will they have the choices that they have for this? I don't want to get them used to something that maybe they're not going to. I don't know. You know
I
what I'm
don't
saying?
think it can hurt.
Yeah.
I think it happens in different ways
Okay.
in high school. And it
Well-
depends on the teacher, just like it
Okay.
depends on the teacher.
Yeah.
I have a feeling just too, we keep saying it's differentiated learning,
Yeah.
but I'm like, hi. Right?
Yeah.
So, and it really is, and I'm sure the high school teachers are doing the same things, and I have a feeling they're doing novel choices. There were high schools in our PL groups and elementary, so some of these schools are PL, I have a feeling they're just gonna go that way anyways throughout the next couple of years. But you can ask that question too.
good question.
High school.
So we have to pick what we're gonna do each quarter,
No, just pick two things that you think that you might already be doing in your classroom.
that we're already.
Yeah, like student choice boards.